Hi, this is Straddie Backyard Yoga and Pilates, and today we're looking at pelvic floor exercises. So pelvic floor exercises are important for everybody, male and female, young and old. And better to get used to doing pelvic floor exercises before you have an emergency situation. So generally we're looking at avoiding incontinence as we age. And for women who are bearing children, it's very important to maintain the health of our pelvic floor and doing the exercises regularly, which means daily. If you're in a situation where you need to rehab your pelvic floor, then you might need to do them maybe 3 times a day. But we don't need to do them for a long time, and you can add them into your daily routine, as in doing them when you're doing the dishes or chopping up your veggies, when you're lying down in bed before you get up in the morning, or as you're going to bed at night. If you're a mother, you can do it when you're lying on the floor playing with your kids, and just add it to your daily routine and do them regularly. That's what's important. Okay, so generally with pelvic floor, the easiest way to do our pelvic floor exercises is to do them lying down on our back. Then we don't have the weight of all our internal organs resting on the pelvic floor, so you'll find it easier to draw up into the sling of pelvic floor muscles. And sometimes you might wonder, what is the pelvic floor and how do I access it? Basically, if you think that you need to pee and you're contracting into the pelvic sling to hold in, then that is using your pelvic floor muscles. So generally for a woman, we're contracting into the vagina and the anus. For a man, maybe you can imagine stepping into a pond of very cold water. But generally, after you've worked into that area a little bit, you'll get the gist of it. So we're imagining drawing up and holding for a moment. So to begin with, we'll start lying down, and we can have our hands on our belly and really feel into that muscle activation. And we want to be able to hold the activation for maybe a count of 6 to 8. And we're going to do that activation 8 times. So if you're doing a little daily routine, then you would try to do that 3 times a day if you could. That would be awesome. Okay, so to begin our pelvic floor exercises, we're lying in a nice comfortable position on our back with our knees bent and our feet and knees hip width apart. If you like, you can take your feet wider and rest your knees together, but I prefer to have knees hip width apart. Hands resting on your belly, so when we draw into pelvic floor, you can feel a little bit more connected to the part of the body that we're working with. And we're also nourishing and nurturing into our belly. Okay, so we're going to inhale and exhale. I'm going to draw into that sling of pelvic floor muscles. Imagine that I'm drawing the muscles up towards my navel. So I'm drawing up for the count of 6 to 8. And then I'm holding the activation for a moment. And if you like, you can do some little pulsing squeezes into the pelvic floor. And just notice how you're feeling in your pelvic floor. There can be good days and bad days. Inhale, completely relax and release. Exhale, draw into pelvic floor for the count of 6 to 8. Nice, slow, controlled movement. Really feel into your body. And little pulsing movements. Inhale, relax and release. Try to keep your shoulders relaxed. Exhale, draw into pelvic floor again for the count of 6 to 8. Hold that activation, little pulsing squeezes into pelvic floor. And you can build up the length of time that you hold and the number of pulses that you do. Inhale, completely relax. Exhale, draw up into pelvic floor for the count of 6 to 8. Holding that activation, little pulsing squeezes. Maintaining our neutral spine as we go through these movements. Inhale, release. Exhale, drawing in. Hold the activation. You might count to 6 or 8 or longer if you prefer. Shorter if you need to. Little squeezes. Inhale, relax and release. We'll do a few more. Exhale, drawing in. Draw up for the count of 6 to 8. Little pulsing squeezes. Inhale, release. Last one. Exhale, draw up into pelvic floor. Holding that activation. Little squeezes into pelvic floor. Relax your shoulders. And relax and release. So if you were doing any core exercises, you would want to be activating your pelvic floor at the same time. When we're drawing into our pelvic floor, we're strengthening those muscles. And when we come up, say we're coming up into a crunch with our hands behind our head, inhaling. Exhale, draw into pelvic floor as you come up. Tuck in under your diaphragm. Draw in for the count of 6 to 8. Make sure you can hold that activation, little pulsing squeezes. Notice the broadening and flattening of your belly. And you might feel that corset muscle, the transverse abdominis, wrapping around the belly and the back. So this is a nice progression from just doing pelvic floor and lying in a relaxed position on your back. Inhale, coming back nice and slow. Exhale, draw the ribs to the hips coming up. Draw into pelvic floor. Make sure we've got those muscles activating nicely. Hold the activation, broadening and flattening the belly. My shoulders are relaxed, my head and neck are relaxed. My hands are here to support my head. Inhale, coming back nice and slow. Exhale, ribs to hips coming up. Draw into the belly and pelvic floor. Relaxing shoulders, pelvic floor's working. We want to make sure that there's no pushing out into the belly or pelvic floor. If we were to do that when we're doing our core exercises, or if we were lifting something heavy, then we would be in danger of creating a hernia or a prolapse. So we want to be able to always draw up into pelvic floor when we're doing our core activation or if we're lifting something heavy. Inhale, coming back, and you might like to repeat those exercises 10 times. And when you're ready, coming up. Enjoy.